All right, well, it's 12 o'clock. Welcome to the Dorman Lunch and Learn. Today it's on Stay Cool with R1234yf. Okay, my name is Truglia. I'm the instructor. Today we got Doreen and Bill with us. Of course, we're going to go over to a machine, show them the machine, click the button. There's the machine. You're going to hear some noise in the background. And what are we going to cover? Well, in this 1 hour plus webinar, we'll see how much we can get done. Info you need to know: how to identify for sealant and refrigerant. That is super important, because if you ruin your machine, especially this time of year, to get a service guy out, it's going to take a while, right? How to recover, how to evacuate, how to test if the compressor is working properly, check in oil and dye levels, how to make the mandatory evaporator test, and using a 2913 leak detector. If you're doing 1234yf, you need to purchase this, the J2913 leak detector. We'll show you that in this webinar using CO2 BullsEye leak detection. We also have the black light thing we're going to show you. We also have the nitrogen tester for Robin Air. But the best, in my opinion, this is not a sales pitch. What we use here is the ATS leak detector, and it works good not only because of that, and we'll show you all of these later, but it has a dye. So the foam, that's why they call it BullsEye, you can get where it's at. How to recharge and much more. So we were going to go to the vehicle, but this vehicle is an electric vehicle. It is the Chevy Bolt, and of course we wanted to test everything beforehand. That way we can try to get you as much in the webinar as possible. So right now we recovered the refrigerant. We had to go through a special, it's an electric vehicle, and of course it wants to do a line flush, so we had to do the line flush that took minutes, 15 minutes or better, and then now it is doing a evacuation. So let's do some AC facts you need to know. Refrigerant is under extreme pressure, as you know, can cause personal injury. Only work in a well-ventilated area. Don't breathe in any of the vapors. If you have 8 pounds of air and 134A, that can cause an explosion. So very dangerous. And 134A takes the oxygen out of the air. So you want to be very careful if you're in a real sealed room. Years back, people doing retrofits, and you go, oh, retrofits, that's old. We did that from R12 to 134A. Guess what you're going to be doing in about a year or so? You're going to be doing R1234yf to retrofit 134A, because 134A is going bye-bye, okay? So it's going to be a whole nother ball game. I don't know how to get past the evaporator in the system, because it's not just a drop-in. The evaporator on this vehicle here has to pass a DOT, Department of Transportation, besides an SAE spec on it. So I don't know how you're just going to drop that in for a replacement of 134A. They have the same characteristics as far as pressure-wise that we'll be speaking about. But be careful. R12 used to cause phosgene gas, 134A, 1234, all extremely dangerous, right? Save refrigerant oil in a separate waste container. If you're using a good oil recycler, they're going to do a lipstick test and an oil sample. If they find that you have the oil from AC systems in it, it'll be called what they call a hot load. They'll charge you extra money. So take a bottle of washer fluid, make sure it's dried out, and save all that oil, and then you can give it, we use Safety Clean, you can give that bottle to them. They'll write up a separate manifest of AC oil. Any technician who's servicing a refrigerant system for compensation, meaning you're getting paid, if you work for free, please contact me here in Mahopac, New York. Must have an EPA Section 609 certification on their person, okay? So if someone comes in and you don't have that, you'd be in trouble. You can go to ase.org, there's the information there, or Max Mobile Mobile Climate nowadays services, okay? So effective January 1st, 2018, you're required to get that. If you're buying more than 2 pounds and your Napa store or your CarQuest store or your Advanced, O'Reilly's, you name it, are not asking for that, there's something wrong there. They need to have your credentials for that. Over 80%, maybe even more now, of vehicles have 1234yf installed. Mercedes-Benz and Mazda are still holding out and paying a fee for that they lose credits on clean air. How to handle and recover refrigerant may also be changing. Requirements to recover refrigerant and to be sent off-site. Now here's where you need your voice. I'm going down, I'm on the MAX board, and I'm really against this. What they want us to start doing is recover the refrigerant, and then the refrigerant gets sent out and you gotta buy it back. You can't do like we're doing now. We recover, we evacuate, and we recharge. They don't want us to do that. So hopefully we can beat that thing down. Facts about 1234yf machines. Perform 2 leak checks. These are mandatory. First under vacuum and then under pressure. This procedure is mandatory. It's a potentially flammable refrigerant. Well, to be honest with you, years back, we took a bottle of 1234yf, we put a lighter here, and it threw a flame out probably a couple of feet. Okay, it is very flammable, super flammable. Now, all of them, it's a chlorofluorocarbon. The word carbon means it can burn, right? Chlorofluorocarbons was R12, excuse me, I misspoke there. It's a fluorocarbon, and so is 134A. So those all burn, but what temperature do they burn under? The chlorofluorocarbon from R12 would be a higher temperature to burn. 134A, another bit higher, but 1234yf burns very, very easy. Maximum charge during the leak check, this is something you need to remember, is 15%. And here's the thing again, I'm going to remind you, you need to have, for liability purposes, a 2913 leak detector, and it has to be on the highest sensitivity position when you put it in the vehicle. You got to put the vehicle's floor ducts, the air coming out to the floor duct, put it on low and put that on high sensitivity for 5 minutes. If it beeps and goes off, we have a problem. We got a question?
Yeah, how does it affect vehicles that are in collisions?
How does what affect? This refrigerant? It could start a fire. I'm not sure if they've recorded any fires. That's a good question. But if I was a first responder or a firefighter, I would be cautious of this. It can burn, but then again, gasoline burns, and there's a bunch of stuff that can cause problems. There's several new refrigerants being considered for additional ones to be that we have already, primarily to increase the efficiency of the vehicle using heat pumps on EVs. So we'll show you, we have an example in this presentation on that. We're told that we would never deal with retrofits. I just mentioned this from the R12 days. You're going to be doing 134 to R1234yf. 134A is going to be, the price is going to spike super high, depending on how hot it is this summer and where their total poundage is at. Once it gets low, they're going to raise the price. So how does the AAC system work? This is important. Super important to understand this. So basically, let's start at the compressor. The compressor here has what we call a S side or suction side, and D, a discharge side. And suction side is low, discharge side is high. So let's start from the discharge side. What it does, it only could discharge a vapor. Remember, we never ever take in a liquid. If you take a liquid in, you would hydrostatically lock it. So what happens here, we take the high pressure, the low pressure gas that came in, we squeeze it, we make it a high pressure gas. The gas comes out to the condenser. The word condenser means it is going to condense the high pressure vapor, cool it down from the air outside the vehicle. Now, if it's 150 pounds of pressure and it's 80 degrees outside, well, that's less temperature, right? So what does it do? condenses it to high pressure liquid, receiver dryer. In the receiver dryer, we dry up any moisture in the system, comes up, goes through an expansion valve, either a valve like this or a block. Most common nowadays is a block. Sensing bulb here. Once it goes here, this is a high pressure liquid, goes down to a low pressure liquid. The low pressure liquid goes into the evaporator. The heat of the car boils the high pressure, the low pressure liquid, and turns it to a vapor. The suction side of the compressor sucks in the low pressure vapor. Remember, we can't put a liquid in here. Squeezes it up to the high pressure vapor. The high pressure vapor again turns into a high pressure liquid, goes all the way through the dryer again and through the system. So that's how an expansion valve or block works. Let's take a look at orifice tubes. Orifice tubes are a little different. We'll start here in the compressor. Again, only vapor. Low pressure vapor gets squeezed in to high pressure vapor. The high vapor comes out to the condenser. The cooler air outside cools the condenser and makes sure the fan is pulling air through, not trying to blow it out. We're trying to get airflow through the condenser. That turns into a high pressure liquid. High pressure liquid goes through the orifice tube, and these got to be put in the right way. They cannot be put in backwards. They will not work well. This is a conventional orifice tube. By the way, they come with 2 O-rings or 1 O-ring. Here's a 2 O-ring style, but this has a built-in capillary tube. This is a variable. All newer vehicles are coming with variable. You can buy replacements like we do. We never put a fixed orifice tube in because it won't be as cold. You'll be spending probably another 15 bucks on it, but it's a really good thing to do for your customer for colder temperatures, because fixed means it can only put so much liquid through. Variable means, just like the spray nozzle on your garden hose, well, if you squeeze it all the way and get a large stream coming out, you're going to put more liquid water out, right? Well, you're going to put more liquid refrigerant out if you use a variable one. And when it doesn't need it, if it's getting too cold, you put a fine mist out. So that's why it's better to use that. So the high pressure liquid goes through the orifice tube, turns into a low pressure liquid. Low pressure liquid in here is boiled by the heat of the vehicle. Typically on a nice 80 plus day, it's going to be over 130 plus degrees inside your car. So if you don't believe me, put a thermometer in your car, and the darker the seats you have, of course all windows closed, it gets very warm in there. You may not be a smoker, but you notice your window has a film on it. That's all the plastics they have in a vehicle, and they're venting and it's getting on your glass, okay? So think about when you're in your vehicle, not good always to drive around with the windows closed and recirculation. Get some air in that vehicle. The low pressure liquid, not oil, all of it boils off, goes down here into the accumulator. And notice this tube right here. You see where the pickup tube is? Here's where it sucks the vapor off. Some liquid stays in the bottom of the system. How many of you have seen these things freeze up and have a hard time of recovering the refrigerant? You got to wait. Maybe you got a choke tester that has a heater on it, or you got a hot air gun. Using either one of those, be careful for wires, vacuum hoses, or anything there that you can melt. You want to heat it up. Sometimes it's a better thing to do to warm the motor up, leave the hood up, and we'll give you more information on that in a longer class. But sometimes the best thing to do is just do something with the hood up. Okay. Now, once the low pressure liquid is in here, it takes only the vapor, gets to the suction side. Low pressure vapor goes into the compressor. It gets the pressure up, comes out the discharge side, high side, to a high pressure vapor, and same thing happens. Now, here's some new stuff that you're going to see on this car. We're going to move over to the car and the machine because it's going to take time. Let me go over there right now and show you where we're at. We got the snap-on PolarTek, and I'm going to move over to where Bill is. Okay, and once Bill finishes putting on the sealant detector that we have right up here, I want you to look at the tube down there. So you see the tube that comes right off it, the little metal line? That's called pre-cooling. Okay, so that works real well. Now we're going in what Bill has here. This is a I can see the ball here.
Oh, it's even higher.
Okay, so the ball is there if within 5 minutes, actually 3 to 5 minutes, if the ball falls, we're not going to do this because we already did this in this system. If the ball falls down, that means you got sealant in it. What do? Well, now these are on back order, by the way. To my understanding, Neutronics is the only company that makes them. I'll show you what it looks like over here, the kit. Bill's going to hold the kit up. See, there's Bill has the safety glasses on. There's the Neutronics kit. They come with R1234A and 1234yf. Here's the PolarTek snap-on machine we're using. And here is what we call air guard. Can you hold that air guard up? So if you have sealant in it, here's what we use. And, you know, unless you like working for free, you would have to buy this piece of equipment, maybe 300 plus bucks or so. But notice it has high and low sides. All you do is connect your hose to the top where the blue caps are. And this one's for 1234yf. And you could take the refrigerant out if there's any sealant in it. We charge the customer extra money. The canister comes unscrewed from the high metal part right over here. You can unscrew this from here to there. And there's a stone filter, reminds me of the old GM gas filters of years ago. And you wash them out. Now, we charge an extra fee for that because it's extra time and extra money. And that way you don't ruin your machine, because if you ruin this machine, this is over a $17,000 machine, you're going to be real unhappy. And for stupidity, Snap-on or any other company for that matter is not going to give you a new machine for nothing. So Bill's disconnecting now, and we already tested the system. We know the ball didn't drop before, so we're going to continue on with the charge and stuff. So notice both gauges are down. Hoses are in Bill's hands. He's going to have to follow the prompts. One thing when you're doing 1234yf, make sure you follow prompts, because if not, it's going to take you into la-la land. Go ahead, Bill. Now we're going to lie for this, because if we hit the electric, the battery one there, it's going to be a mandatory hose flush, and it took 15 minutes last time. So we're going to lie and say it's a gas motor. But you don't lie. Make sure you clean the hoses out. And just because the hoses are flushed out, we've done some testing with hoses. If you had PEG oil in there, you could have a problem. And we're going to show you something that you should use on a vehicle that's electrified compressor. So Bill is putting in here the time. We're going to lie on the vacuum time, only put a minute in. We still got to go through a mandatory vacuum. We're going to put the amount of kilograms that belongs in this vehicle. And you got to, is that on pounds?
It's on pounds, yeah.
Oh, so he did a conversion, and and if you hit kilograms? Oh, you got to put them in.
Yeah, but it's 725.
So 725 in kilograms. They don't use a lot on these vehicles. And now he's going to proceed. We're going to go through high and low.
Okay. Change that again. Okay.
And now it's going to ask you if you want to continue. It's less time, it says, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It wants a minimum of 15. Yep. Now, we're going to recommend that you evacuate it. 30 minutes minimal, 45 is preferred, but we're not going to do that here because we don't have the time. Plate number or not plate number, this is more for management. You can see what cars you did on this particular machine. Now you got vacuum time, 1 minute, charge amount, 725, connection mode, I think it says high and low, and plate number. He's going to hit enter. Now it's going to tell him to place these on. Don't place anything on before they tell you to do so. If you do, you're going to run into a problem. Now, if the vehicle is sitting 15 minutes, the gauges low and high, which are now at a vacuum, notice that? Now you notice they're going up? They should be roughly equal pressure to the temperature under the hood. And Bill, can you tell me what those temperatures are?
Yeah, 70 low and about 70 on the high.
So 70 low and high. Now, you know what that means? That means you have no restriction in the system. If you had a clog somewhere in the evaporator, in the condenser, at the expansion valve, the readings will not be equal. So that is an important thing for you to write down and understand. Readings must be equal. Now we're going to continue on. And you see the lights changing on top of the machine. It's going to do a check. It's doing gas analysis. This thing takes roughly a good 5 minutes. By the way, when you're doing 1234yf, compared to 134A, you're basically going to put an extra 25 minutes or so into the vehicle. That's just the way it is. So right now, while I was doing that, I'm going to get back to some slides over here. That way we don't waste time. So as you've seen, this tube right here, this is called an IHX, internal heat exchanger, that utilizes in stationary air conditioning systems for many years. This takes cool gases and cools down the high pressure, okay? So you can see the low pressure vapors in here, high pressure liquid, and we're cooling the line down. This is how the system is more efficient. We don't need to use, like years ago, 2 pounds plus, okay? You can use a lot less. Some cars are under 1 pound, under 16 ounces, which is amazing. The ejector system is another system that's out there. The ejector system actually has, I was just giving Bill a new rag.
Sorry.
No problem. The ejector system is basically replaces the expansion valve if you work on start-stop vehicles. This allows, through a suction type of device, think of how a Venturi works. If you have suction in there, but the engine is off, and you don't want to sweat your butt off, what it'll do is it'll move refrigerant through the system without using any energy. Now, will it work indefinitely? Probably 3 minutes, depending on the temperature out. They're making these systems better and better every day. Denso was the one who actually started using this thing. Let's talk about best practices. So R1234yf is a new refrigerant right now. Well, not too new. We've been doing it for years here. Machines have a built-in identifier. Let me talk about that for a second. A built-in identifier on newer, updated J versions. The original machines came without the identifier or with it. So a lot of people say, well, it's cheaper. I'm buying a cheaper machine. Well, you know, a deal is not a deal, right? You would have to buy an external identifier, either put it via Bluetooth or USB, or it would not allow the machine to do anything. And if you're thinking about, I'm going to convert my 134A machine into 1234yf, not a good idea. Why? UL Underwriters Laboratory Your machine is not the same as a 1234yf machine. Remember, the refrigerant is flammable. Because I know students of mine go, well, I got an extra 134 machine. Can I make that a 1234yf? No. You don't want to blow yourself up or your employee, right? So the new ones come with the built-in identifier, better vacuum pumps. Vacuum pumps should be over 3 CFMs. 5 is better, 10 is even better. But you can look at the machines. The quality of some of these pumps are not as good. Now they're relying, well, it's not as big of a system. We don't need as big of a pump. No, you sort of need a big pump so you don't have to go out 45 minutes. You can do it in 30. VIN numbers may be required. Vacuum oil. Make sure you have vacuum oil around for your machine. Because what happens, you're going to get a notice, right, Bill? It's going to tell you, hey, you got maybe an hour left or 2 hours. I forgot when it pops in.
It starts at 4 or 5.
It starts, okay, starts at 4 or 5 on one of our other machines. Yeah. But usually somewhere in the range of 3 to maybe 5 hours. It's warning you. If you don't buy vacuum oil, whatever brand you want to use, it's going to shut your machine down. This is not your father's old machine of years ago. So you need oil, and a filter is a good idea as well. Now for the scale, this PolarTek machine does not allow you to adjust the scale. You have to call the Snap-on tech rep to do that. Now other machines, we know you can adjust it with an Allen key or a screwdriver, and I bet you could do this. I'd have to look at it, but they want you to call them. That way they come out, service charge, yada, yada, yada. But maybe not a bad idea. In the interim, 33 pennies is 3 ounces. Put it in a baggie, because if you don't put it in a baggie, the pennies are going to fall over, get stuck in the scale, and you'll be cursing yourself out. 33 pennies are roughly 3 ounces. So let's say your machine has a weight of refrigerant in it of 8 pounds, 3 ounces. I put 3 ounces on there, 8 pounds, 6 ounces. If you're more than 1 ounce difference, you need to get the scale adjusted. Now, the real deal is, look, we got a 3-bay shop here. 1 bay would be 4 bay, but 1 bay has a ton of equipment in it. So 3 bays, 3 lifts. When we have some air-conditioned stuff, we can't always bring it in. So we wheel it out. And thank God our parking lot got paved last year. So we went for big money and repaved everything. But still, rolling your machine in and out, it's getting banged around. Check your scale now, before the season starts. And if you see something funny, remember, too little refrigerant, too much refrigerant makes it warmer. So you want the exact amount in there. Some of the things here, this is a 2791 detector, but they're on a table in there. It's in a plugger and a charger. You'll see a wand-looking thing straight ahead to your left, straight ahead to your left. See it? Yep, gray-looking thing.
This is recovering too, G.
It's recovering.
Okay. Past the,
okay. Thank you. And you can switch to Bill's for machine for a second. So there's what it's doing there. It's telling you what's going on. They can switch back. This is in Infocom. Yeah, that's it. So they make this for a lot of different companies. This is a 2913 leak detector. You're going to need one of these. Okay, we have a couple of different ones around. So that is the mandatory thing there. This little U-view light. Now they made an update on this because one of my students just asked me about that light. Yeah, and how about the little light?
Oh, I was looking at the other picture.
This is another leak detector. This is from Robin Air, but this does not detect refrigerant gas. This detects nitrogen. Nitrogen and helium. We did a video on that, so we're not going to show you that today. You didn't see the little light there? Maybe on the machine. So this light now that has been upgraded, thank you, Bill. Why would you want to buy this light for $300? Because that's what the new one cost. And if you want the number, you can contact me. I didn't realize this. Years back at Max, here you go, Bill. Years back at Max, I'm sitting down after I was teaching, at the bar with a company that had sent me in their black light. And I said, I don't know, your dye sucks. And the guy looks at me like, what? I go, I don't know, I'm having a hard time finding the dye. I'm using your light. One of them suck. So he's like, well, what dye are you using? You using our dye? I'm like, I don't know. I get it from Napa or, you know, Whirlpack, one of them. So no, you got to use our dye with that light. And then another guy jumps in, my friend Phil Truglia. He used to own UView. And he says to me, gee, you need one of our lights that does multi-spectrum, and that's a multi-spectrum light. So having the right light is super important. Otherwise, you won't see the dye. I never knew that. So I made an ass out of myself as usual, right? You should use yellow glasses when we're looking for dye, and always wear glasses when working on refrigerant. When you're near the car, have those safety goggles on. In fact, Swede and I are doing a heavy duty class next week up in Buffalo or Tonawanda, right near Niagara Falls. That's the machine going on. We give everyone safety glasses. I like those, but usually we have those 3M ones here. Let me grab them. These give you more. They're better, and the little vents on the side go in the opposite way of something hitting you, prevent fogging up. See, when you're putting dye and oil in, we have different type of guns. One is going to be with a PAG oil in it, and never exceed 2 ounces of oil. Some people just keep putting oil in. A 1234yf machine does not have an oiler like your 134 machine. So basically, people think they can put more in, and you put oil in on 1234yf once the refrigerant is in the system. If you didn't leak anything out or the system is very low, then it may need the 2 ounces. If you just leak the itsy bit out, don't put any oil or dye in, okay? And it's better if you buy the oil dye mixture. We like using FJC. I do have a squeeze type one that says hybrid EV only. We make sure it's all cleaned out. We put the right amount of oil in, oil dye. We'll squeeze it into the system as the manufacturer likes. Leak detection with BullsEye. Can you give me that BullsEye leak detector doohickey? We showed the other two. This is what we love using, okay? Now, we can't show you all these things in an hour, but you can go back to other ones, because once a year I've done an AC update at about this time of year. So go look through the other Dorman Lunch and Learns, and you can see us using this. The nice thing with this is when you find the spot, beep, 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 you can see it lights up here in yellow, in case you can't hear the beeping. I remember my buddy Dave Hobbs, he had one, he says, I really don't get it, G, and Dave's a smart guy. He goes, I don't get how that thing works. I said, what do you mean? David's beeping. He couldn't hear the beep because he has a hearing issue, okay? Just like my buddy Jim Morton. They both had hearing issues. Jim got some operation where I think he had something implanted in his head, working pretty good. Seen him not long ago. But for those that can't hear well, I said to Bernie, put a freaking light doohickey on there. And can you give me that other thing there with the headphone? Ultraphonics, I have a very expensive one, but this is the inexpensive one that White Industries used to sell. And this is ultrasonic. So Doreen's trying to get in on it. I think you could still buy these. Ultrasonic is a noise that you will hear. I remember my daughter was complaining of a leak in her vehicle, and back then I was using nitrogen. I knew it was leaking, but I couldn't find a damn leak. So my more expensive one, this one does not hook up to a lab scope, but I graphed it out, and actually when I took the refrigerant or the nitrogen totally out, it flatlined. As soon as I put it in, it got bigger and bigger, and as I started going to the area where the problem was, the evaporator, had to take the whole dash apart on this little piece of junk Plymouth that she owned. I wanted to shoot myself. And of course, The dye and everything was stuck with leaves, pine needles. You couldn't see any of it. I went up the drip tube with my little dye doohickey thing, couldn't see a thing. The ultrasound helped me fix it. But now with BullsEye, once you hear this thing, you spray the foam and it goes from yellow to pink. And there's your leak. It's phenomenal. I mean, this is the only thing we use here for leaks. You know, the foaming gas with the hydrogen from Robinair, I'm not going to say it's bad. It's better than the regular leak detectors, the 2913s, the 2791, beep, beep, beep. You blow on them and they go off. My bad breath will do it, right? But when you need it to find a damn refrigerant leak, it's real difficult to find it, even though they say it's 0.3 grams a year of a leak. I don't get it. You got to be right on the damn thing. So I never liked those leak detectors, just my opinion. But with BullsEye, we find the leaks and we fix them. So here's the old 2791 and the 2913. Be careful. Be wary of those that say meet or exceed SAE standards. They're two phrases of SAE certification. A technical test lists requirements to be met, and not all have met either or both. Stick with a name brand tool manufacturer for the best sniffer. Now, what was the name of the other one, Bill, there? The Infer something?
I don't even remember. I just said it.
Infracom or something? These guys make it for a lot of companies. Yeah. So they are really good, good detectors. Actually, I believe they make it for Snap-on. So Snap-on doesn't sell garbage. And here's another one from CPS we have that works real good. Okay. I don't know where that is. I couldn't find that one, Bill, but it must be around somewhere. And here from the machine, it's going to tell you, this is from a CPS machine, you know, put the blower motor in a low position in the floor and put the leak detector there, and basically the 29 leak detector on for 5 minutes and put it on high sensitivity. If it doesn't go off, you're good. Now we do it both ways. We're going to put CO2 in, and when we say we're putting CO2 in, you need to look at one of our other videos. We put CO2 in the system after we removed all the refrigerant. Do not mix them. Do not recover the CO2 into your machine. CO2 could be let out into the atmosphere. You slowly open the hose fitting for CO2 and put it near a rag, and don't open it full because you don't want to blow any oil out. And usually, what does it take, Bill? Maybe 3 to 5 minutes, if that?
Yeah, something like that.
And you get it all out of the system. Do not recover it into the machine. Once all the CO2 is out of the system, then you could put your vacuum machine on for the air conditioning machine and then follow through whatever you need. Then it's going to put 15% of a charge into the system, because remember, that's all it'll allow you to do. And that's when you do your 2913 leak detector. Air coming from the floor, low, high sensitivity, low fan, I mean. High sensitivity on the unit, and make sure you don't have a leak to cover your butt.
This is doing the vacuum test now.
Okay, so switch to his thing, doing vacuum test. So that vacuum test is going to take...
Got 4 minutes left.
4 minutes left, but it's been doing it in the back. What did you just do, 10?
I just did the initial one, now it's doing the second one.
Okay.
I think this is it. After.
Yeah, so then it'll allow us to go on. We'll switch back to that. Now look, there's always dye here. Now this may sound disgusting, but here's what I find. If you use some spit and make sure your fingers are clean, you don't want to be licking, God knows what happened. Could be a rough toilet paper day, you know what I'm saying? So put some spit in here and it'll bubble up the best. Even though we have that stuff from Tech that works good, that purple spray, spit works real good on this. You need, this is the #1 leaker, okay? Look at this, with a cap on, CO2 in the system, and BullsEye found that problem. Okay, so once we found that, now we change the Schrader and make sure you put new caps on. A little Q-tip with a little oil. You know that vacuum pump oil? You can't keep it around forever. It's hygroscopic. Once you open a bottle, you can't use it again, so you might as well take some of that oil, put it on a Q-tip and a little O-ring in the cap, Put a little on there, and that way the cap seals better and goes off.
There's a question.
Oh, sure.
Does the new machine let you continue with evacuation if it detects contamination?
No, so it doesn't let you do anything. If it detects contamination, the question was evacuating it. You can't do a damn thing. If it detects something, it's going to tell you to actually hook up a tank. You're going to need a portable tank. There's a little fitting on the side of this machine that basically you hook it up and you take that bad gas and put it into that, okay? Now you can get a little helper pump. We have a scavenger machine that we have, but I just bought a new tank and I'm going to get one of those little vacuum. Well, I guess it's a recovery unit that they use for big buildings, okay? And we're going to use that tank. That way, if you have that problem, you just hook it up and it'll suck it out 1, 2, 3. But it will not let you go further. If you have contamination, it should not let the machine go through. I will warn you if you have a Robinair machine, early version, because I've seen this in person, it allowed the machine to go on with contaminated refrigerant. Now, once you get that in your tank and you do it at cars, that is called air condition aids. You are affecting all the other vehicles you're doing. So please make sure your machine has, and Robinair fixed it with the right update. That's why you need to check. And it's not a charge for the update, it's free. Make sure your unit goes online and look if there's any updates. So these are the big leakers. Here's the caps we discussed, seals, all that. Lubricate any of these type of fittings here. Here's one a black light did get through the glasses. This is common, like on Bill's truck. Chevys and GMC trucks leak right there at the seams. This was a TSB, and they were given money back on this. But I think you had to be in so many miles and so many years old of the vehicle. Just like Hondas. Where do Hondas leak? In the condenser, usually the left side. Most leak on the left side like this. This is the left side. Thermal imagers could be great if you want to see, like this is the compressor left off. This is a bar from a Ram truck in the way. But you can see we don't have much heat going on, and this was outside. As soon as you turn the compressor on, the brighter color is telling me refrigerant is moving through that condenser. So thermal images can be quite helpful in helping you diagnose stuff. And remember, the system is not only air conditioning components, but it has different components like the heating system. If your blend air doors are not working right, if the heating system is not shutting off, you could have a problem and you think it's an air conditioning problem. And if air is coming out the default position, the defroster, and I've had people come in over the years, they've had refrigerant checked and checked. They came to me and I said, you got a problem. Air's not coming out of your ducts, the panel ducts. It wasn't switching. Your windshield is taking it and you're not going to feel cool. First step, safety is always glasses. Remember, yellow glasses for dye, regular for the rest of the stuff. This was the sealant detector by Neutronics. If you have an external one, like here, this had 10% R12 in a 134 system. The last heavy duty class we did last year, we found a couple of trucks up there that had problems. Sealant, every one of these things have sealant in it. Super Seal, AC Pro, you know, all this junk that's being sold is going to ruin your expensive investment. Let's face it, there's no machine out there probably less than $5, $6 grand, okay? So do you want to ruin your $5,000+ investment? I don't think so.
You got a question?
Sure.
It says, Freon with sealer identified. Will it be safe to use recycling machine to put that Freon into that contaminated container?
Yes, so if you're recovering into a separate recovery unit like our scavenger machine, which OTC don't make anymore, or a separate unit that you could buy with a tank, you could put it in there, and EPA has reclamation centers all over the place. We have one not far from us in Rockland County, New York, probably about 40 minutes away from us, that we could send our contaminated stuff to. Here are sealant issues. Look at all these sealant problems. even hoses totally clogged up with sealant. So sometimes hose flushing doesn't really do much. Make sure you're going to do the right thing. Check for it. Use the sealant guard from Aircept. That is a great tool. And you can see here, here's the sealant guard, okay? We have it on our machines. This would be used for electric type of compressors. So if we didn't know that this vehicle, we had pure refrigerant in there, we would use this as a first step. And the updated version, this has been updated, but it doesn't look like the updated version because it has to have a UL rating, is safe to burn off the refrigerant because you don't want an explosion, right? So Aircept had to go through a lot to get that approved. This tool here, this is your best thing to use to see if your compressor's working. And one of the things why we put CO2 in a system, the reason why we put CO2 in a system is very important because not only do we want to see if there's a leak, we want to see if the compressor's going to operate. And Bill's bringing this over right now. Thanks, Bill. So right here, you put the low side fitting. First, you put this into a vacuum. And notice the ball valve has to be open, okay? So ball valve open, that way all your hoses have no air in them. Once you're good, you shut the ball valves. Then you hook both of these hoses to the vehicle. Don't need the air conditioning machine on, but you're gonna have to put low on the low side, high, yep, come here, high on the high side. And then you're gonna see, when you open it up, refrigerant's gonna come in, what the oil level is gonna be like, what the dye level is gonna look like. Okay, you can see that stone filter in there? This is just a protector to protect the glass. Okay, so if you see there's a lot of oil in there or a lot of dye, dye's okay. Dye's in every new vehicle, which is good. And this here is a tool for probably about $300-400. This one's specifically for 1234yf. It'll have it right on the side of the hoses here. There you go, Bill. We put a piece of wire here so we could hang it. And we showed you that in another video a couple of years ago, I believe. So go back. We'll show you real quick here on this video where Scott Brown is using this.
So what we have here is the Aircept visual sight glass, and what it does
you
is
should hear the
allows
sound
you to
on
make
your
a
end.
connection to the vehicle. With the system running and the ball valves closed, you go ahead and open up the high side to pull in a nice sample, close that valve off, and then you start to slowly open up the suction line or the low side line to pull that refrigerant back into the system while observing what's happening in the tube. This gives you an indication of whether or not it has dye in the system, whether there might be debris, whether you might have old oil, burnt up oil, or what have you. And as you begin to pull that in, you'll see the refrigerant actually boil, and this is similar to what's happening inside of the evaporator core. So this is a great visual indicator tool to let you know, what's going on inside that system. And then you'll see that oil film in there, so that gives you an assessment on how much oil is actually in the system to help you with your diagnostics.
Okay, so you can see how you boil that down. We're going to go over to the machine. The machine is at HVAC blower motor on low, door. We did it before, so we're just going to hit the enter. And now it's going to ask you a question. See, it's going to tell you here, leak detected, put a 2913 compliant. So it's basically going to ask you, do you have that leak detector? We do, and we did this before because for the sake of time, obviously, we can't get this all done.
Was this test performed?
And it's going to ask you if there's any leak.
Auxiliary evaporator.
So this does not have an auxiliary evaporator. Now, you see the lights up, well, you can't see it on top of the machine, the lights changed. Right now, it's looking to put, there's 15% of the charge that was already in there. Let me go up to the gauges. And now what it's going to do is just add the rest of it. And while it's doing that, we will continue on with the slides. All right, so let me get over there. So system components, this is a great piece from AirSep. Sometimes you have something called Black Death. That's when a compressor grenades, meaning the metal is breaking down. And what happens, the metal starts eating the hoses and it gets like string cheese. But even any little metal particles coming through or any debris, this little screen catches it. We have a whole kit with a bunch of different sizes. Good idea to put them in for safety reasons. Water boils at 59 degrees Fahrenheit at 29 inches of vacuum. That's why you should evacuate 30 to 45 minutes on a 1234yf machine. The more you evacuate, the colder the system's going to be. It's going to boil the moisture out. The desiccant can only take one drop, like out of an eyedropper, of moisture. After that, the desiccant cannot remove anything, and your desiccant's in your receiver dryer and or accumulator, depending on the system. Here's our hybrid EV oil doohickey that only goes in. Remember, you never use PAG. If there's a special PAG, and some of it's $172 an ounce and going up every day. That's a special oil. You can put that into the compressor. In fact, it needs to go into the compressor. To add extra oil to the system, you buy an ester oil with dye in it. This would be a regular dye additive for, what do you call it? For PAG oil, a non-electrical compressor. So here's some stuff here, ester oils we just spoke about. And they come, PAGs come in all different weights. You got a RTFI, read the frickin' information. So you go into All Data, Pro Demand, you know, Motologic, you go into one of those and find the information. 1234yf and 134A, on a day like today, it's roughly, I don't know, 70 degrees, and it's probably 65,
so here,
65. At 65 degrees, your reading should be 25 to 35 on the low side, 135 to 155 on the high side. So those are good normal readings. Obviously, as temperature changes, you can see the chart there. I'm not going to go too deep into man-tooth, but let's say you got a special vehicle. You work on some ambulances, or you work on different box trucks, different vans. Now, sometimes they don't use the same manufacturer. And this is also a problem. We know from body shops, they won't buy them the OE condenser. Car gets in an accident, needs a condenser, needs this. Well, it's different. Even if it's too thick, too thin, that means the amount of refrigerant that goes into that system is going to be different. It's never going to be perfect. Well, if you buy one of these, this is called man-tooth. Man-tooth is a couple of thermocouplers that go on and transduces, a thermocoupler outside and inside, and on the low and high side.
So here we have both the high side and low side pressures are equal. So the system is basically under its equalization status. And here we're going to start the vehicle up and then begin to observe the system performance. We have two temperature inputs, and the system is actually doing some calculations for us, primarily looking at the subcooling and superheat there at the bottom two rows. You'll see the superheat on the left. That is the evaporator boiling, right? And then the subcooling is the condenser, as it's condensing that gas into a liquid. And then here we're looking at what's called an enthalpy chart, which is a thermodynamic performance of the refrigeration loop. So these are advanced tools that you can take advantage of.
All right, so you've seen that here on a Honda dual electric compressor. It has a belt driven and has electric. The three wires going through it is going to be AC. If you got 2 wires here going to this compressor, that is going to be an internal inverter that takes the AC and makes it takes the DC, excuse me, and makes it AC to run the electric motor. Drip tubes, if you don't see water leaking out somewhere of the vehicle, well, you're not going to be cold for long inside that vehicle. Make sure water drips out. It is super important to know that. If water don't drip out, you're going to have an issue, okay? Cabin air filters, make sure they're clean so you get good airflow. Control panels, if they're not working right, old manual ones that you would have by cable and some vacuum. Vacuum and electric on some here, and fully electrical type units. Performance, always make sure that you know the customer's concern. Like I said, maybe air's not coming out of the duct, right? Get over here. Air's not coming out of the duct, but it's coming out up here. You don't have a refrigerant problem, you got a flow problem, right? Airflow problem. So check everything. TSBs, there's some air conditioned ones that we did that people's windows fog up on GMs. Well, there is a reflash that makes the fan run afterwards so no moisture stays in there and gets on your windows. This is a great little thing from Pyle. My guys don't use it. I don't know why, but I like using this. I'm too lazy to get my fat ass under the dash to pull that dirty filter out. But here you can see if you don't get to 1,000 to 1,450 CFMs, that's 13 to 16 miles an hour, you probably have an issue. Anything less than 10 miles an hour or 900 standard cubic feet per minute will tell you got a problem. And also, it'll tell you the temperature. So you get the temperature and the speed. They're not that expensive to check. And of course, run a scan on it. Here, I'm using the Autel unit, going through an Audi and seeing if there's an air condition problem. Look at that. Recirculation flat motor, no signal. Well, maybe that's why that customer has a concern. Gauges, we went over the high side and the low side. Compressor off, system at rest for at least 15 minutes. Gauge reading should be close to the same of ambient under the hood. We're going to show you that on the machine. Let's switch over for a second. Got to try to squeeze all this in a New York minute. And right now, well, you see it's telling us to take everything off. Look at our gauges. Our gauges are roughly, what's that say, Bill?
Again. Back to 70.
70 and 70, so pretty much under hood temperature. So Bill's going to remove it, and then we'll see if anything else on the car once he does that. Flipping back to the slides for a second. If you don't have at least a 30-degree difference right there, there was a 36-degree difference, not cold enough, that means you got a problem. Most vehicles we've seen that are new, they come in a couple of ounces under. And think about all the money the OEs actually save. Now Bill's probably going to hit the enter right here.
Clear those hoses.
And now it's probably going to clear the hoses. We should see these things dropping. And we'll go back to the slides again. Let's talk about the future of AC. And that'll be pumping down there. So here's a heat pump system. Now heat pumps are going to be a little bit different. You can see they have a couple of different valves. The evaporators are split. The condensers are split. And think about what a condenser does. A condenser, when you squeeze something like squeezing your hands, you create heat. Well, in the winter, I would like that heat inside the car, right? So what it does is, a simple way of putting it, it's like the opposite. Rather than on an air conditioning system, releasing the heat to the outside, right, atmosphere, it's taking the heat and putting it in your car and taking the cold air from inside and bringing it out. It's just a reverse of a system. Easy way to think of about a heat pump system. Works pretty good. Now, some places like, you know, Fairbanks, Alaska, Phoenix, Arizona, where you got extreme temperature differences, it probably don't work as well. But they're making these things better and better every day. Now, we're going to be back on the vehicle there in a second. Did it change anything?
Yeah, it's all done.
All right, let's see what the screen said here. So basically, it says we are
End of the procedure.
end of the procedure. and it took the poundage, oh, put it back in poundage.
Yeah, 1.5.
Okay. Hit enter. You could print the results. If you wanted, we didn't print it, but that's fine. So we're all good. And now you can shut your machine off. Always make sure your gauges are down into a vacuum. And you could go manual here and put it in a vacuum just so they're all the way down. I like always doing that. Why? Because if your hose had a leak or your machine had a leak, you know you're off the vacuum. Does that make sense? Pretty good thing to do. We're going to run an air conditioning class here. If you're interested, it is a 16-hour class. We could either do it in 4 nights, okay, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, or we could do 2 days. It's $750 a person. It's hands-on. You'll learn a lot more. So if you're in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, you get a full color book. We give you some food, and you get max certification, all included in the price. We have a heavy-duty one going on next week. The class is close to full. 1 or 2 seats may be left. And another one we're going to be doing in June up in Tonawanda at O&K, my buddy Swede's place. We could also come out to your shop and do in-live training. Not only me, because it can't be a one-man show, but we got Pete Meyer, Ken Zanders, Josh Weaver, and others. Also can do them in Spanish. So we have our buddy Ricardo and Rafael who do Spanish and French. We have Mark, who's French. Okay. Also, we're going to run a E-scan class here. But not only will you learn about the E-scan tool, but you'll learn things like fuel trim and mass airflow sensor stuff and sensors and actuators. If you're interested, shoot me an email. My email's there, gtrulia@dormanproducts.com. And if you have any questions, I'll entertain that. And look at that, I squeezed it in 3 minutes over. But we want to thank you. You can do these QR codes, but if you think this was helpful, type the letter Y in there. If you think it was no good, waste of your time, you could do the letter N. I'd like to special thanks to Bill Fithorn and Doreen for helping out. So yesterday, actually, we had to get this machine running. Our O2 sensor for the gas analyzer part went bad. We had to get a new one, a $600 unit. Well, what do you expect on a $17,000 machine, right? So just like a regular gas analyzer, oxygen sensors go bad. You got to know where to get them. Perhaps if you're a Snap-on dealer like our good dealer, John Curcio, he had one of these on board, but many dealers don't. And let's say it takes them a week to get. Your machine's going to be out a week. Could you afford that? Now, we got 2 R1234yf machines and 2 134 machines. But most shops don't, because that's a lot of money. So let's see if we got any questions there. Nothing? Okay, well, thank you guys for all that good feedback. We appreciate it. We'll see you on another Dorman Lunch and Learn next month in June. And we do have some classes. Pete Meyer has something coming up. Look at the Dorman training website, and you'll find more stuff out. So thank you again from New York. I am G. Truglia. Have a great day.